She left her aunt's house on a rainy December night, bought sausages at a takeaway, and disappeared. No scream, no struggle, no body. Just a fleece sitting alone on the pier like someone pressed pause on reality. It's December of the year 2000 in Killala, a quiet little coastal town in County Mayo, the kind of place where the biggest scandal is who double parked outside the post office. But that night, everything changes. One minute, Sandra Collins is running a quick errand. The next, she's Ireland's most haunting mystery. And yeah, I know, she went out for sausages doesn't sound like the setup for a missing person case that would still haunt an entire town 24 years later. But that's exactly what makes it so eerie. Ordinary night, ordinary girl, then gone. No one saw her leave the pier. No one heard anything. No CCTV, no trail, nothing. Just that pink fleece. And every theory, every rumor starts right there, at the edge of that cold, quiet water. Alright, so before we jump into all the weirdness, let's meet the main players of this very Irish mystery. First up, Sandra Collins, 28 years old, born and raised in Killala, County Mayo. Everyone who knew her said the same thing: gentle, shy, easy to talk to. The kind of person who'd remember your birthday even if you forgot hers. She was staying with her aunt on Courthouse Street. Not exactly a wild nightlife setup, we're talking tea biscuits, maybe the Late Late Show if things got crazy. Sandra was pregnant at the time too, which added a whole other layer of pressure. It was the year 2000. Small town Ireland wasn't exactly known for minding its own business. You sneeze wrong and the whole parish knows before lunch. Then there's the guards, the Irish police. They'll become a huge part of this story. They searched fields, rivers, piers, everything short of hiring psychics. And they're still, even now, asking people to come forward if they know something. And finally, the name that'll make a lot of locals roll their eyes: Martin Early, Sandra's boyfriend. He was the last major person linked to her, later arrested for her murder, then acquitted. Yep, cleared. Which leaves this weird vacuum: no answers, no justice, just rumors that never died. So that's your cast. A kind woman with her whole life ahead of her, a town that saw too much but says too little, a police force chasing ghosts, and a boyfriend who walked free. And it all started with one small walk on one ordinary night. It's the night of December 4th, year 2000. Sandra leaves her aunt's house in Killala. She tells her she's heading out, nothing dramatic, no arguments, no weird mood, just a quick trip down the road. Killala's tiny. You can walk across it in, 10 minutes? And in that small space, people notice everything. Who's walking, who's driving, who's buying what. So when Sandra doesn't come back that night, it's not just odd, it's impossible. She stops at a small shop, grabs a few groceries, including sausages. Harmless enough, right? Except those sausages will end up being one of the biggest clues in this entire story. Then later that night, around 11 o'clock, Sandra is seen walking into the country kitchen takeaway on George's Street. It's raining, cold Irish December rain, but witnesses say her clothes were dry. Dry. That's the kind of detail that makes investigators stop mid-sentence. Because if it's pouring outside and your jacket looks fresh from a dryer, you didn't walk there, someone drove you. Someone picked her up between her aunt's house and the takeaway. And that's where the timeline starts to break. There's this unexplainable gap between when she left the house and when she showed up dry in the takeaway. We're talking maybe 20 minutes, maybe more, where no one knows where she was or who she was with. Also, she made multiple calls that night from a phone kiosk outside McGregor's shop. But here's the creepy part: to this day, no one knows who she called. Not one person. Not one phone record that led anywhere. Just mystery. So by the time Sandra walked into that takeaway, the story was already halfway written. She was dry in a storm, possibly driven there by someone she knew, making phone calls to people no one could trace. And a few hours later, she was gone. Now here's where the story really starts throwing curveballs. Because when Sandra vanished, it wasn't just that she didn't come home, it's what was left behind that makes your brain itch. 4 days after she disappeared, December 8th, someone spots something down by the Killala pier. a pink fleece. It's Sandra's, and not just tossed anywhere. It's lying neatly, almost placed there, like whoever left it wanted it to be found but didn't want to hang around to answer questions. Inside the pocket, the sausages she bought that night, still wrapped, still there. She never cooked them, never gave them to anyone. They just sat there like time froze the moment she vanished. Now think about that, a missing pregnant woman, her fleece on a pier, sausages untouched in the pocket. It's like a crime scene built to mess with investigators. And the fleece? Here's where it gets even stranger, it wasn't soaked through. The weather had been awful, heavy rain, cold wind, and yet somehow that fleece wasn't dripping like you'd expect. So either it was dropped later or it was kept somewhere dry before being discovered. Either way, it screams staged. Years go by and the guards keep chasing shadows. The Collins family never gives up. Every anniversary they beg for answers, hoping guilt finally outweighs fear for whoever knows something. Then in 2011, a man and a woman are arrested in connection with her disappearance. For a minute, it feels like justice might finally be waking up. But then they're released. No charges. Case back to square one. Fast forward a few years, 2014, and boom, her boyfriend Martin Early gets arrested. The guards charge him with her murder. This is the big one. The family's holding their breath, the media is circling, and for once it feels like the truth might finally crawl out of the shadows. But then the court case collapses. He's acquitted. No conviction. No closure. Nothing. So yeah, the one man officially accused of killing Sandra walks out of court free, while her family walks out of the same building carrying hope that's basically shattered. At that point, it's not just a missing person case anymore, it's a wound. A 24-year-old wound that never got to heal. If there's one thing stronger than mystery, it's stubborn Irish family love, and the Collins family had it in buckets. While everyone else slowly drifted on, they refused to move. Not out of denial, but because they knew something wasn't right. People don't just evaporate in Killala. It's not Los Angeles, it's a town where your neighbor knows what brand of milk you buy. Her brother Patrick became the family's unofficial spokesperson, and every single December, without fail, they'd appeal to the public again. New posters, new interviews, new hope even when it hurt. He once said, "We can't grieve because we don't know what happened." That line hits hard. Imagine living 2 decades trapped between heartbreak and limbo. The guards kept saying the same thing. Relationships change. Loyalties change. Someone out there might finally be ready to talk. Basically, they believe somebody knows something, but fear, shame, or misplaced loyalty kept their mouths shut. In 2024, the guards launched another renewed appeal. They went public again, standing at the pier where that pink fleece was found, begging for fresh information. After almost 25 years, they were still chasing a voice that refuses to speak. There's even talk of a formal inquest finally forcing everyone who was close to Sandra to testify under oath. There's speculation the main suspect, Martin Early, now living abroad, could be summoned back to Ireland to face questions again. Meanwhile, the Collins family just wants something simple. Not revenge, not headlines, just truth. They want Sandra's body found. They want to bury her properly. They want to stop waking up every morning wondering where she is. Because that's the cruel part about unsolved cases, they don't end. They just stretch on forever, while everyone around you keeps living their lives. At this point, the case feels like one big jigsaw puzzle, except half the pieces are missing and the other half belong to a different box. Everyone in Killala has a theory, and honestly, some of them are wild enough to make Netflix blush. But let's stick to the ones that actually make sense. Theory 1, she got a lift. That's the one that clicks the most. Remember the dry clothes in the rain? That screams car ride. Maybe it was someone she knew, maybe someone she trusted. Because if you're a young woman walking in the dark and a random stranger pulls up, you're not just hopping in unless you feel safe. So odds are she knew exactly who it was. Theory 2, someone she called. Those mystery calls from the phone kiosk outside McGregor's shop. Yeah, and that still keeps people up at night. No records ever confirmed who she was trying to reach. Was it a friend, the boyfriend, someone else entirely? If those calls were connected to her disappearance, that booth might have been the real crime scene all along. Theory 3, the pregnancy. Sandra was pregnant, and some reports say not everyone in her life was thrilled about that. That kind of stress in a small town where everyone whispers can lead to confrontation or panic. Maybe she confided in the wrong person. Maybe she planned to leave or reveal something someone didn't want revealed. Theory 4, she's buried locally. This one's grim, but a lot of locals believe Sandra never left Killala. Some think she was buried nearby, maybe within 10 kilometers of the town. That theory keeps resurfacing because it fits everything. No body, no sightings, and a community that still seems to know more than it says. Theory 5, drowning. This was the early official line that she might have fallen or taken her own life. But honestly, that doesn't add up. You don't neatly leave your fleece, your sausages, and every trace of your life behind like a staged prop. Plus, the families always said she wasn't suicidal and they knew her better than anyone. So here's my take. She didn't walk herself into the sea. She didn't just vanish into fog. Someone picked her up that night, someone she trusted, and something went wrong. The fleece, the pier, the timing, it all feels like an attempt to stage a story, not to tell one. And here's the darkest part. Maybe the person who knows the truth is still alive. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they've carried it for 24 years thinking it'll fade. But it won't. Because every December, Sandra's name comes back and Killala remembers. Here's the thing, 24 years later, the guards are still asking the same question. What happened to Sandra Collins? Every December, they go back to that pier, hoping someone somewhere finally decides to grow a conscience. They release the same line every time. Maybe what you thought was nothing back then is actually the missing piece now. That sentence hits different when you realize the truth might be sitting quietly at someone's kitchen table. Sandra's case isn't just a mystery, it's a mirror. It shows how silence can be louder than evidence. Somebody in Killala knows what happened that night. Maybe they saw her, maybe they helped her, maybe they watched. But for whatever reason, loyalty, fear, guilt, they've stayed quiet. And that silence has been louder than any confession could ever be. Meanwhile, her family still waits. 24 Christmases without her. 24 birthdays that never happened. They don't want headlines or court drama, they just want her found. They want a grave to visit instead of a pier. And here's the haunting part. The last person who ever spoke to Sandra Collins might walk free forever. They might live an ordinary life, eat dinner, laugh, sleep, while the woman they last saw alive lies somewhere in silence. She left for sausages, just sausages. A walk so simple it shouldn't even be remembered. And yet, here we are 2 decades later still trying to figure out why she never made it home. Because the real horror in this story isn't monsters or strangers. It's that evil sometimes looks ordinary, and sometimes it drives you home in the rain.